afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to ACSOM on this Tuesday afternoon. It's the trio, a treble. One team won't be getting a treble this season, but the three of us are here on this Tuesday afternoon. Gentlemen, how are we? In the Christmas spirit yet after that Christmas advert this morning?
Can't fail to be, mate. Cannot fail to be. Certainly we're hopefully going to be in a happier place this Christmas than we were last Christmas.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Patrick, you're back after your wee break off.
I am.
Happy to be back and happy with that Christmas advert this morning?
I am. They knocked out the park again. It's always brilliant. It was a bit of a dampener last year because the football wasn't too good, but football's enjoyable again this season, so good to enjoy the Christmas advert.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people were saying because they had put Neil Lennon in the Christmas advert last year, there was absolutely no chance we'd let him go for the month of December due to his starring role in that Christmas advert. But there was a few nice touches in that Christmas advert. I thought the photograph of Angie's dad appearing at the very start of the advert. The family, I think it's the Kilgallen family, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. The wee girl had a Japanese headband on at one of the games, and it's herself and her brother meeting Kyogo, Ayeti and Juranovic outside the shop. So a few nice touches. But Lawrence, self-awareness from Celtic in it. We get the laugh about Gavin Strachan's laptop, which there seems to be silence about that laptop ever since we started winning games. And we also continued the patter about Tony Ralston being a brickie, since it looks like Big Julian's getting him a truck for his Christmas.
So, that was one of the areas the short-lived CEO revitalised with social media. And, they're approaching Kelvin levels of production, aren't they? So, you can certainly say that's been revitalised. It's better than last year's advert. But, yeah, definitely good laugh. And, I think we're all shed a tear at the end, didn't we, with the Bertie message.
Yeah, I thought it was a really nice touch. And obviously Eddie Reader over it with Auld Lang Syne playing throughout. And obviously tribute at the end, Lawrence, as you say, and the letters that they've got above the main stand at Celtic Park just now in tribute to one of Celtic's greatest sons. Few comments coming in. Hello, wherever you are. One of these is from Boston. Good afternoon. Kevin Graham's come in to say good afternoon. Patrick, you've not been on in a couple of weeks, and obviously you've not had I think everybody in ACSOM's had their own wee story to say about Bertie Auld. So obviously at the weekend, which we're going to come to, there was two absolutely cracking tributes to Bertie. But yourself, Bertie Auld, for you, probably all been covered, but anything to say in the wee man that's probably not been said?
Probably not, no. I mean, I was lucky to meet him 2 or 3 times, and, just what a cracking storyteller he is, because you could just go up to him, you'd never met him in your life, and he'd just tell you all these stories about Celtic, act as if he knew you for years and years. And people said that when the news first broke, that we'll never get a guy like that again. A European Cup winner, a guy that loved the club, and someone who can tell stories like that for 50 years after he won the Cup. It's just amazing. So rest in peace. And you're right, the two tributes were cracking at the weekend at the semi-finals. Yeah,
to the commenters that are asking if we look happy and we look settled, yes, I think we all are quite happy and settled. And Ange Postecoglou certainly looks happy and settled in his Christmas jumper. Starring role for the big man, Patrick. But again, as I was saying to Lawrence, there's some good self-awareness. It's good when we can laugh at ourselves. And in cases like this, we're playing good football. So the feel-good factor seems to be around Celtic Park just now, and the mood's quite high.
100%. And the Gavin Strachan laptop was absolutely hilarious. It's funny because you now know that people in Celtic are watching you on Twitter. They know what the patter is. They know about Ralston being a brickie and Gavin Strachan's laptop. You're right, there is no more part about that now that we're winning games. I don't think the laptop was ever the problem. I think it was the manager. But no, it's quite funny, and the self-awareness is good. At least the social media team and the Christmas advert production team are self-aware.
Yeah, it's a pity some other folk at the club weren't as self-aware as they are. Lawrence, as well as that, you're smiling just now. John Kennedy smiles in the advert. It's shock horror. I've got the laptop, been able to do a seating plan, and we've got John Kennedy smiling. What else would you want?
Well, Joe Hart's getting a bottle of shampoo. I don't know which brand from Kyogo. It's just cracking advert, isn't it? Listen, no wonder John Kennedy's smiling. tightest defence in Scotland. You know, he taken a, you know, I think he originally joined as a defensive coach, and he taken an absolute hammering last year, didn't he? So if he was taking a hammering last year for being a defensive coach whose defence wasn't performing, he's surely got to take some of the plaudits this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, we do have the best record for the team that was supposed to be all at sea at the back. And Patrick, I think everybody, all three of us, were probably hoping that there was going to be some major hint about Jota and signing permanently for the club. We do see him having his starring role at the end as George Michael when he gives us a tune to Greg Taylor, who, by the way, I don't think suits the double denim at all. I mean, you know, he gets a bad enough time now, and to stick him in double denim, I don't think it was doing him any favours.
Well, is he fit if he can play the guitar? He must be near fit if he can play guitar, mate.
No, this could be a thing to consider. Could be a thing to consider, Lawrence. But Patrick, do you want to have faith? If you get faith that, you know, maybe that letter that he got off hands, you might be opening Christmas Day and it might have a contract inside it.
I don't know about Christmas Day, but I'm hoping come the summer it will do. I can't, as much as I really, really want us to, and as much as it makes the most sense, I can't really see us signing him in January. I don't think we're that eager to part with that amount of money. £6.4 million. No, I think it's a no-brainer. As long as he continues this form, he'll end up with over 20 goals, over 15 assists. And how can Celtic turn a player like that down? Because when you're spending £7 million in Julian, £9 million in Edward, and £5 million in people like Ayeti and Barkas, to turn down a top quality player for 6.5, it just doesn't make any sense. So him and Carter Vickers, to be fair, I'm not sure. I think we can get Carter Vickers for £1 or £2 million, which is another no-brainer as long as he continues his form. So I'd make them the first two signings on, the 1st of June or whenever the window opens, the 1st of July next year.
Yeah, they're both, very important players to Ange's system at this point in time, as you say. And, Jota's World Cup front is obviously something that we'll notice. But, Carter Vickers has been absolutely pivotal at the back for Celtic, and getting him in so late in the window, you really wonder where it would be had we not get that deal over the line so late on. Jamie Young's came in to say the new Celtic video was class. Probably just to wrap up the video, well done to Kerry and all the team that made the video. I thought it was an absolute cracker. They seem to get better each year, so well done to her and all the team. But as I was saying to both of you there, the feel-good factor is around Celtic at this moment in time. We're obviously in a cup final now. But yesterday at 5 o'clock, the Open Goal lads dropped the interview I think we all wanted to see between Cy Ferry, Paul Slane and Ange Postecoglou. Both of you were sent away on a mission yesterday before and are prepped for the show to go and watch it. So we're going to have a wee chat through it. And the tagline that we've got here is directly from that. He said that I'm here to bring trophies to this football club. So we'll kick off it. Patrick, just in general, what did you think of the whole chat and the whole sit down?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, the press conferences are good, but you can tell it's a much more relaxed atmosphere. I think Cy Ferry's a Celtic fan. Two guys that certainly came through at Celtic.
He is as well.
Aye. But a much more relaxed chat. It's a conversation with two people as opposed to one question from about 10, 15 journalists. So the conversation flowed a lot better, and you could sort of go into more depth about his dad and his life in Australia and his previous clubs and his managerial career. So it was brilliant, and it's just what everyone says, isn't it? You could listen to him for hours. The big man's just amazing, and I think he does get the club. I think he's possibly the perfect fit, because it's attacking football, we're winning games, and he understands that it's what the supporters want to see, and the supporters are right behind him. So it was just a brilliant chat, and hopefully he wins Manager of the Month for November and we can get another one. Yeah,
hopefully a wee extended version of that maybe come out after he hopefully goes and wins another Manager of the Month award. But as you say, he probably is the perfect fit from all the plaudits that we heard within the video. And I've made a couple of connections between him and Celtic history, which is quite interesting. I'll touch on when we get to it. But Lawrence, one of the points he said very early on in it was that the Betis game, which, a lot is looked at, and a lot of us were disappointed that we went 2-0 up in the game and, ended up, getting beat 4-3. But he said that was the game he thought that the players get belief that if they would stick to playing this football, we'll crack it at some point. What did you make of that point? Because I would have said the turning point for us was at Petozzi, but the manager clearly thinks different.
Listen, he's going to know the players better than us, and I think if you told any of the players you're going to go 2-0 away from home against Betis, they'd have been like, not a chance. So I can see where he's coming from there. But listen, yeah, we'd all thought, we should have maybe held on. But still, it's fairly early on in the team's formation, wasn't it? They're still getting to know each other. But if they can have that kind of 20 minutes, half an hour spell against Real Betis away from home that puts them 2 up, it surely has got to give them kind of some kind of belief to say, you know what, we're actually not a bad team when we play like this. It's just being able to sustain it over 90 minutes, being able to keep going, getting the fitness up. Part of that's just having, a squad deep enough to do that because, we're going to be facing, 10 games before January now. I think that'll be a fairly testing for us as a squad.
Yeah, there's going to be obviously the cup final now when the St Mirren games rescheduled in there. Pat, it is going to be 10 games as a squad. We knew that, in terms of the squad, we were pretty threadbare. But it's going to be a big challenge. But just now, I think if you can continue to build momentum, we should be okay going into this run of fixtures.
Yeah, and we've been on a great run since Leverkusen at home. I think it's something like 8 wins out of 9 games with that 1 draw at Livingston. So fantastic run of games. And if we can just get any sort of positive result on Thursday night, that would lift the spirits as well. It would keep the momentum going. I think he addressed it in the Celtic View podcast yesterday, the day before, that he's been trying to avoid looking at this 11-game fixture list in December, but he's had to confront it now. But Celtic always play 2 games a week, and he's dealt with it quite well the past 8 to 10 weeks when we've been on this good run of form. So it's always difficult in December, but I think almost everyone's back fit now, or everyone will be in a couple of weeks anyway. Taylor and Julian and people like that. So hopefully we get through it and just keep it close at the top. Yeah,
just quickly to interject in this, I know we're talking about Angel open goal, but Celtic shared this. I've just got a notification through my phone to say that an open letter to Michael Nicholson regarding him and an appointment of Bernard Higgins has been sent to him. A Celtic State of Mind has sent the open letter. The Cormac's come in to say glad to see ACSOM putting their name to the open letter to Michael Nicholson. I won't read the whole thing out. It's all on Twitter if you want to have a look at it. But in general, the signatures of this letter represent tens of thousands of Celtic supporters and makes any position that Bernard Higgins may hold at Celtic Park untenable. Just very quickly, it's been signed by 10 fans organisations, 13 fan media and online outlets, that's including ACSOM, 112 supporters clubs. We'll come back to that when we probably go over the AGM, as we've not been on since then. But just to anybody that's not noticed, that is up on Twitter just now, you can go and have a look at it, but we'll come back to it later on in the show. Lawrence, back to Ange Postecoglou and open goal. One of the questions was about changing his style, and it's something that we've debated about, chatted about on here multiple times. But he said that he doesn't understand the question because he said in his role at Celtic he needs a result every week, and what he thinks he does in preparation and the way he plays his team gives him the best chance of success. He likes to be super aggressive whenever he can, as that's who he is. What did you make of those comments?
Listen, I think it probably gives us a framework to work from, doesn't it? We've seen him change things in game to maybe when we are ahead and maybe put on, a holding midfielder. But at least it lets you know how you're going to start, and that's what Celtic fans want to see. We want to see us having a go and saying, well, we're going to make the best that we can here. And I'm not too sure we would ever accept us, deciding to park the bus against anyone. It just wouldn't be the best watch. If he thinks the best way of scoring against somebody is to be aggressive, this is his style of play. He elaborated on it. It's the style he knows how to coach. It's a style he's had success with. It's kind of, when you put all those things together, well, why would he change it to a style he doesn't know how to coach and he hasn't had any success with? It'd be, no matter what you're doing, you need a focus and a vision, and Ange's definitely got that. And he's getting it across to the players. You can see whether it's the Betis game or other games, you can see week in week we're getting better, and the players have completely bought into it. As have the fans, it's definitely great to watch, isn't it? The ball retention's amazing. I think it's better to watch than some of the seasons under Rodgers when it was just side to side and safe passes and all that. And just trying to get him to play the dangerous passes. He has been aggressive. So it's great to the boys were able to get kind of answers to go more in depth with things, as Patrick's touched on, as opposed to getting one question and not being able to get anyone to expand on it or get your follow-up or get kind of deeper thought on it. But Andrew's referred everyone to his book, he's touched on it. I'm sure that's going to be in a lot of Christmas stockings.
It's sold out on Amazon this morning. I had a wee look.
I know.
It's hen's teeth to get it. So, if you do wake up with one of them on Christmas morning, you're a lucky boy or girl. The Celtic shop might be missing a trick not having that in stock.
Well, yeah, I think they need to be getting a print one done ASAP, don't they? Go on to his publishers and say, we need this printed up. But listen, maybe by the end of the season, there's an extraordinary chapter in it. Let's hope so. It's a second edition.
Yeah, hopefully an updated edition does come with an updated chapter. I don't think it'll be as big a loving as the other manager Brendan Rodgers' book was, which I don't think sales has did too well since February 2019. But it's still kicking about the Celtic shop.
I got that for my Christmas in 2018, and I picked it up in the end of January. So I'm only like a chapter and a half in, mate. Still, I was like, you know what, that's it. That can go back on the shelf. Yeah,
I don't think it's too big a read for Celtic fans' priority just now. I think we'd all rather get our hands in that Ange book. But Patrick, in talking about the players responding to his style, he talks about football players, and again, we've all played football, and he says in the core majority of footballers want to play that style of football, going forward, scoring goals, etc., etc. Defenders being aggressive. But I thought it was really interesting as well. He says late in the game, still players look at the bench, asking us, do they want them to play out from the back? He says it's just human nature. There was a few times on Saturday. I think all of us had a bit kind of, we were worried towards the end, especially when between Beaton and Joe Hart. But he's implementing this system. There's belief in the system, and they are executing it, and it will only continue to grow the many games that it gets played.
Yeah, 100%. And there was one, I think, about 15 minutes in, Michael O'Halloran closed down Joe Hart in the first half, and it goes wide, but it could easily go in if he hits it a different way, if it comes off at a different angle. So these are the risks that you take, and I think we conceded a goal to AZ Alkmaar doing that. I'm not sure you could even count that as playing out from the back, but it was a mix-up between the defender and the goalkeeper. But we're going to score some pretty good goals from playing out from the back, some pretty good to watch goals. You see Man City play like that, you see all the best teams in the world play like that. So I think it's just the way football's going. And, as time goes on, more players are going to become accustomed to playing like this. And I think that's the problem with Starfelt, actually, at the start of the season. I think if we weren't playing out from the back, if it was more sort of lump it forward and just get the ball beyond the defenders as quickly as possible, Starfelt might actually have looked slightly better at the beginning of the season, but he's getting used to passing out from the back, so he's coming onto a game. But, I mean, Ange knows what he's doing. He's had success everywhere he's went as time goes on, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, and as you touched on there, Patrick, signing players like Carl Starfelt, we will probably sign other players that will be maybe a bit better suited to this system. As you say, some of the guys that there, your David Turnbull and Callum McGregor, they will have had to have adapted to it, because what we were playing last season compared to now is completely different. Shape's completely different, and the way we play football's completely different. But Lawrence, another point he makes on this is, he says, if you go to a library, there's many sections in the library. Today he went to one section, and that was playing aggressive, attacking football. Bertie, a man who always used to sing the Celtic song, and that is, that word that we always come up with, the Celtic way, that is the Celtic way of playing football, isn't it? That aggressive, attacking style of football.
Yeah, without doubt, Bertie was maybe too aggressive, get your retaliation in first, but I don't know, but listen, it's great for us to watch, and listen, playing out from the back, it's something we'll get better at. We're going to make mistakes as we get used to the system, but they'll get fewer and fewer mistakes the more confident we get at it, the more used to we're playing at it. So I think the team's improving week on week. What our last 8 games, Patrick's touched on, we've just had, from the must win at Aberdeen, taking on and probably dropping points in our easiest game against Livingston. You'd have bitten anyone's hand off for that beforehand, and if you keep that performance up for the rest of the season, you're going to end up with at least 2 trophies, I think. So, yeah, Ange definitely suits us, and I think he touched in the interview when they asked him, you sound like you're made for the job, and he said, yeah, I thought so, but I wasn't the one interviewing kind of thing. So, yeah, I think he's done. He's overreached anyone's expectations so far of where we've been with such a massive rebuild. We're still going to be in Europe after Christmas, Leverkusen. I think, they've got bad injuries. They haven't been on the best run of results. I can see he's going over there and taking something. We've got to be in high spirits just now.
Yeah, they certainly do, and I think Celtic fans are definitely going to be allowed to go to the game, so that can only help us. It's something that we've had missing. I know Paul, Matthew and some of the other boys get into Ferencváros, and there was Paul as well has been at two of them so far. There was Batiste too, he had in the toilets, but hopefully no toilets or hospitality for him up in Leverkusen on Thursday. On to the inverted fullbacks, Patrick. You say there was a fullback as a player, like going forward, but it used to annoy him when he used to have to stand in a halfway line, knowing that if a team broke, he'd be defending against 4 or 5 players. Now, this is a wee full circle thing that I came up with last night when I was listening to this. I thought it was very interesting. People might think I'm a bit mad, but Ferenc Puskas has been living in a parallel world to Celtic in terms of his influence in the club without kicking a ball. And that all goes back to the 1960 European Cup final at Hampden, which, when Jim Craig interviewed Jockstein, the boss, before he passed away, Jockstein said that the game that influenced his style of football was the 1960 European Cup final, when he noticed that apart from the centre half, he's a Santa Maria, the rest of the players could all score goals and they all pivoted around him. And Jockstein built that in the formation of Billy McNeill at the very core of that Celtic team playing football. So that was Stein getting his balance, his football philosophy from watching Puskas. By the way, Puskas scored 4 goals in that game. Di Stefano scored a hat-trick. Celtic going playing in Di Stefano's testimonial. 7 years later, Jockstein's the boss of Celtic after winning the European Cup. And that's Ferenc Puskas' influence, Jockstein. Ferenc Puskas has obviously had a big influence here in Ange Postecoglou, Patrick, because Puskas was not interested in defending either. I think he was his manager at South Melbourne and used to just tell the 2 wingers, don't come back. What do you make of that as a wee kind of 360 review? We've got a guy from halfway around the world coming over here, but the same man as Ferenc Puskas, what would that be, 60 odd years apart, had the same kind of influence in 2 men.
Yeah, 61 years apart. And I've never heard of that. Never heard of that story for Jockstein and Jim Craig before. That's interesting. And, I mean, yeah, it's certainly different. I mean, I don't think Ange leaves his 3 forward players up in the halfway line, leaving Ralston and Jovanovic exposed. I think he's slightly adapted. But, yeah, I mean, it's certainly interesting. Influence a player that's never played for the club, I don't think he's ever really commented on the club. What an influence he can have. And long may it continue, because I know Celtic's all about attacking football, and as much as our downfall tends to be our defensive side of things, you probably wouldn't change it for the world, because 9 games out of 10 we're attacking, we're winning, scoring goals, watching a great team. So yeah, again, just to say that Ange is the perfect fit, and I'm glad Ferenc Puskas had that effect on him. Yeah,
I think we all are. And again, Lawrence, another wee parallel is when Ange was talking about his dad, he said his father detested Italian football. And again, in 1967, it's Celtic that put an end to that run of the Catenaccio football when we absolutely battered them in the European Cup final.
Yeah, kind of, I suppose, the birth of modern football. Overlapping fullbacks, a wee bit different. But even if you want to go further back, I think Puskas was influenced by Jimmy Hogan and obviously Johnny Madden. Great influence in Hungarian football, obviously, both former Celts. So, yeah, it goes kind of all the way back, doesn't it? But, yeah, 67 was obviously first non-Latin team to win the European Cup. And, probably the invention of total football. A lot of people say it was the Dutch, but when you speak to the Dutch, they were inspired by the Celtic team. So it's I think it's a great link. It's one that may have been written in the stars. Ange touched on his interview, doesn't it? It was the perfect team for him, or the perfect club for him.
Absolutely. Kevin Graham's coming in to say that parallel universes are his bags, and he's chuffed with that one that I've came up with. So there's my hot take of the day. Ferenc Puskas not kicked a ball for Celtic, influenced two Celtic managers. Hopefully Ange Postecoglou is half as successful as Jockstein, because if he is, we are in for one hell of a ride. But again, I think Patrick, something, a lot of the time last season, we just seemed so detached from the football club and detached from the people at the club. But when you hear Ange talk about the influence that his dad had on him, and particularly, I know you're like myself, that you go to the games with your old man and stuff, and he talks about that the only real time that he probably spent time with his dad, and so his real personality come out, was when he went to football games with him. And again, it's just kind of, there's a lot of parallels that you can actually draw with Ange Postecoglou, and feel so sympathetic towards him in terms of he's just, although he's from Australia and he's from a country that's halfway around the world, there's so many things that you can actually draw so close to him. And in terms of this, when he said that, he saw his dad's emotion come out, and that was when he noticed that, this game does that to him, so I have to love this game. It's so refreshing to hear a manager, because I think we've got a real, lover of football as our manager at this point in time.
100%. And, I think he's got that bond with his dad that a lot of people would do, where you might not spend a lot of time with him during the week, but, back in the day I'm talking about, you might not spend a lot of time during the week, but there's always the football on the Saturday where you can really bond and have a good time and enjoy yourself. Not only that, I think he was born in Greece and emigrated to Australia, so there's that link as well. A lot of Celtic, and I mean, me and you aren't immigrants. I don't think any of us in this call are, but there is that link from 150, 160 years ago, where most Celtic fans came from a family that had to come to a foreign country and work their way up and prove themselves. And he's mentioned that a few times about his dad. He worked so that he could have a better life. So I think that's probably why he gets it so much. He understands, he comes from the same type of background. It's the same sort of working class, have to make your own way in the world type of attitude. And I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah. A few people coming in to say the old man seen Puskas at Hampden. My grandfather was at the 1960 European Cup final, 7-3. What a game that must have been. But again, we're talking about Puskas, we're talking about Di Stefano. We'll go back to our striker, Kigo Furuhashi. Now again, he's played a starring role in this Christmas advert, but I thought it was really interesting that Andrew's touching on again. He's 26 years of age. He wasn't a young lad, Lawrence, when we brought him obviously over here from the J League, and that Ange just thought he would be the right fit and he would adapt quickly culturally to Scotland. And obviously there's been links with other players from the J League. If we do bring other players in, I think that can only help Kyogo, because, in terms of settling here and in terms of, getting to know Glasgow and stuff, it can only help if one of his fellow countrymen join him here.
Yeah, listen, hopefully it was interesting to say Ange said, one of the top recommendations was from his defenders that had to face Kyogo. He was saying, his defenders saying, look, this guy's an absolute nightmare. He's got the knowledge of that league. I think we've all watched every bit of footage on YouTube of Maeda that's available, because he seems to be the one that's most heavily linked. If it helps Kyogo settle, brilliant. I mean, we know we need another forward. We didn't really have a lot of options, with Giacomakis out. He's been stop-start. I think everybody said, well, look, Ayeti, probably it's time to move him on. Well, we figured, what about Japan? They'll have played a full season come January, so Kyogo will have played a full season. I know he did a wee bit out for injury, but whoever we bring in will also have played a full season. And, we've then potentially got, a couple of Japanese players. We'll get Rogic, who will have to travel further for the international stuff. But, yeah, listen, if they're as good as Kyogo, just fill the team. It's, bring them over, isn't it? You obviously can judge a player. And he knows how to get the best out of players. So you've got to put your faith in the manager. Or I think Jota would say that you've got to have faith.
Good link, Lawrence. I like that. We're all about the links today, and a man you've just mentioned there, Lawrence, is Tommy Rogic. And again, Patrick, we knew that when Ange came in, he was the one player that the manager knew all about. He'd played him for Australia, and he'd been an important part of that Australia team. But again, one of the points that Ange makes is, Roderick's only 28 and he says that his best years could be ahead of him. And he's saying that, when Tommy enjoys his football, the best comes out of him. I think we're seeing, a Tom Roderick we probably thought was gone last season, certainly. We, again, probably down to a lack of game time and all the other circumstances. But in terms of Tom Roderick under Ange, he's been absolutely sensational so far this season.
He has. He's really kicked on. He came into the team last October, I think, for the AC Milan home game. And, he made a bit of an impact. But after a week or two, our season went down the pan quick after that. And he was just, one of many players who didn't play to his usual standards last season.
Yeah,
but,
and it went down the pan, depending on who you blame for it going down the pan, according to somebody last week.
Aye, exactly. No, but I mean, even this season, I thought, is he trying to force something that isn't there? But no, he's absolutely kicked on, and especially since him and Turnbull, we sort of thought they couldn't play together because Christie had left, and it was those two in the midfield, and it wasn't really working in September, and we've hit form since then, and you can see how integral both of them are. They both have their off days, but he's been absolutely sensational and a massive miss since he went out of the team, actually, because I think you've seen the Livingston draw, and even at times on Saturday we do struggle in the midfield a bit to create something when he's not there. I think we spoke about how Kyogo was coming deep and you couldn't make those runs in behind, and you were left with Jota making those runs, and that's probably why it looked like he had such a good game, because he was left to do all that himself. But I do hope his best years are ahead of him. I don't think that's the case because he was absolutely phenomenal in Rodgers' second season. But as long as he continues his current form, I think we'll have a great player for the next 2 or 3 years at least.
Yeah, and in terms of longevity, Lawrence, Tommy Roderick's heading for, if his best years are ahead of him, that means he's probably going to be there hitting over 30. Along with Jamesy Forrest and Neil Beaton, we're going to have quite a few testimonials to go to. I don't know how well attended the latter one will be there that I mentioned, but I certainly think the front two will probably have decent turnouts for them. And again, these guys who have been there and seen it all and won it all, it's very important to have them at the club, because in terms of the core values of the club, in terms of understanding the pressures of Celtic, it's very important to have guys like that in your dressing room, isn't it?
Yeah, you want guys that know how to win trophies, know what it means to the fans that have been over the course. But touching on Tommy Roderick, I think he's actually got a player out of him that no one really thought was there. He's getting 90-minute performances out of him, and you're kind of going, serious doubts whether we'd ever get out of Roderick. So he's revitalised a lot of players, none so more than Roderick, and actually been able to get 90 minutes of outstanding performances out of him. Just some of the times you're watching, he could be in any team. The ball just sticks to his feet. He's slaloming past 3 or 4 challenges. He's just looking phenomenal. The sooner the back is better. I mean, I'm still not 100% convinced with him and Turnbull in the same midfield, but again, how many options do we have? But he's brought Beaton in to sit deeper, who's, I think, improving game in game. He's relearning the position. It lets us push Kalmark further forward, and I think that's probably got a better balance, Beaton, Kalmark and Roderick. Turnbull's still only 22. He's got a lot of development to do, hasn't he? He's, I think we forget how young a team it is. When you look through that team, and just certainly improved. Tony Ralston is improving. I thought Taylor had a good start to the season before he gets injured. So Starvelt, Carter, Vickers, it's a young defence, isn't it? And obviously Beaton and Kalmark are probably 2 of the older stagers. Same with Roderick, but they're still got 4 or 5 years ahead of them, haven't they? And then up front we've got Abada. Probably Forrest will start now that he's back fit. You've got Kyogo and Jota. Forrest is the old man out of those 4, isn't he? Kyogo, mid-20s, and the other 2, 19 and 21 or something. It's, he's laying foundations that could be there for a while,
Yeah, 100%. And, you're talking about that midfield, and it's something we've spoken a lot about, Patrick, but there is a depth and position in terms of what would be the number 6 there in that midfield, and it might be in terms of the amount of games that we've got that we do need to start to rotate a wee bit in that position. Obviously, we saw McCarthy coming on for his usual 10-minute cameo at the weekend. Soro came on very late in the game and managed to lose the ball. And Beaton did okay, throughout the game, apart from a few under pressure moments with Joe Hart. So it might be about, giving that rotation, because it gives you that attacking midfielder that you've got off the bench that you wouldn't get if you did go with McGregor, Turnbull, Rogic. But as a midfield that we've seen that it can be effective though for us this season.
100%, and I thought Beaton had a smashing game actually until he got moved to centre half. He's been centre half for 3 or 4 years now, and you just get sick of him. I mean, I certainly get sick of him. I mean, that sending off against Midtjylland, I lost the plot, in the stadium, and again, that's not even down to his position, Patrick. It's just down to complete stupidity. Because it was an off-the-ball incident, and that's why you just think, we need to get rid of this guy. But when he's in the midfield, he seems to be his old self. He played that position under Dylan, and he played really, really well. He was getting compared to Busquets at times, but not by me. But no, I mean, you're right. He's been adequate cover since Rogic went out the team, and we all thought Soro was going to play that position as a defensive midfielder, but I just think he can be a bit of a bomb scare, especially when he comes on in games, and
he's very erratic.
His passing is quite erratic. I'm not his biggest fan anymore, and I think McCarthy struggled for fitness, but I thought when he came on, apart from his very first pass to Beaton, which could have resulted in a St Johnstone goal, I thought he played quite well. He helped out with the defence a lot. He cleared a lot of balls. So I think he could come into the team. We've all spoken about the tough run we've got. I think we've got another 10 games or something, 10, 11 games. So
10 in December alone, and obviously we've still got to play Bayer Leverkusen on Thursday and then Aberdeen. So 12 games in this block, and then there's the game in January. So 13 before the next
13 games, there you go then. So I think we can see all these players coming into the team. But yeah, I mean, the squad depth isn't ideal, but there is something there to hopefully get us over the line with just about maximum points, I think.
Yeah, and talking about that squad depth, just to kind of bring this in from Robert, he's saying that he would sell both Bain and another Greek fella, I think you're referring to Vasilis Barkis there, and try to buy the young sweeper keeper. Oh, okay, I know who you're talking about. But Patrick, just before we came on air, you sent me an article off Twitter, and it was saying that it looks as if Celtic, I don't know if you've seen this, Lawrence, were about to hand Scott Bain a contract extension. What would be your initial thoughts on that, and would you be confident enough, if anything, touchwood, happened to Joe Hart, that Scott Bain would be able to come in and do a job for us with a settled defence?
To be honest, it wouldn't be my choice, but Bain's done it before. He's come in and done a job, but I think he's last season. Saying that there's loads of doubts about loads of players last season, but if we're handing Bain a contract, what's the future for Connor Hazard, Ross Doohan? Is it Toby Oluwemu, England under 21? He's getting rave reviews. But where are we going? We've got kind of 3 highly rated young keepers. Connor was obviously in goal for the quadruple treble. Jeez, quadruple treble, just amazing, isn't it? It's another cup won. Some people can't, win anything at Hampden, but it's just outstanding. If Bain's get a contract, what's the plans for the 3 other, young promising keepers? I think everybody agrees kind of Barkas is, his time's come and gone. But yeah, I'd be surprised we're handing Bain a contract. But, I'm just seeing him in training every day. Maybe he's seen stuff that we're not seeing or we've forgotten, because was it under Rodgers that came in, or Lenny came in that on one
under
time?
Rodgers.
Under Rodgers, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you look at that kind of, he's one of our usual commenters here, saying he's happy at the team. Bain always was there at Ibrox, we won 3-2. He did have a decent enough game in that. I wouldn't really say the 2 goals that we conceded were his fault. He came into the Celtic team on merit. If you remember, Craig Gordon's absolute howler against Salzburg at Celtic Park. And then a couple of months later, Craig Gordon was dropped and Scott Bain came in because in terms of what Brendan was trying to do with the ball, getting passed out at the back, he suited the style. Neil Lennon persisted with Scott Bain throughout the rest of that season. Obviously, Scott Bain was a goalkeeper when we won the treble, not the quadruple treble, Lawrence. And then he was dropped after the Clues game. If you remember the story right, he was meant to have hurt one of his fingers. And then Fraser Foster appeared back in. I don't think that would have helped his confidence, Patrick. So, maybe as Lawrence said, we don't know what's happening in training. Stevie Woods has obviously worked very closely with him now for, what will that be, 3 years, plus coming up to 4 years in January 2022. Maybe we have got the good side of Scott Bain, and maybe he would kick on if we give him another chance in front of a settled defence. He's not got Shane Duffy in front of him this time.
And I mean, it's entirely possible, but it still doesn't change the fact he's not made an appearance since Joe Hart signed. I think I'm right in saying that.
Yep.
I thought when
Joe Hart came in just before we played Jablonec, and he's played every game since.
He played the next day, didn't he? When he first signed.
Right. Yep.
I'm not a Scott Bain fan, I'll be honest. I mean, I actually wanted to sign him, and then as soon as he started playing, I wanted rid of him. I'm not a fan of Barkas either. I would punt the both of them, as one of those comments said. I can't comment on the Man U keeper. I don't know how good or bad he is, but I'd certainly be looking for another goalkeeper. One thing we do need to do, though, I mean, Scott Bain's contract does run out in 2023, and you actually do need to look at these guys. You need to look 2 years in advance, and you need to say to yourself, whether I need to sign these guys in a new deal or sell them. And obviously, we've looked at Scott Bain and said we're going to sign him in a new deal. And I think there's a load of other players like that as well. I think you've got Tom Rodgick, I think, runs out in 2023 as well. So you need to look at players like this. Just as I say, not a big fan of Scott Bain. And what Lawrence said, you've got Ross Doohan, Connor Hazard, and then the 18-year-old. I think he's English, Toby, who I think there's an article online a few days ago that there's a plan for him to be the number one keeper at Celtic by 2024, which is when Hart's contract runs out. I'm not sure how true that is, but if he's playing for England under 21s or under 18s, he must be not half bad. So you've got these three youth goalkeepers in the background. When I think we need to give one of these guys a chance one of these days. An early cup round or something, or a home game against Livingston or Hamilton or whatever, when we're not facing a lot of shots, But yeah, I wouldn't give Scott Bain a new contract, put it that way.
Well, as you say, again, we're talking about experience here later on. Experience of Joe Hart being in there, and some younger keepers you can only pass on a lot. That he's obviously Joe Hart's played highest level, captured his country over 70 times, played in the Champions League. All that experience, I'm sure, would help some of the younger guys. So yeah, but back to Ange Postecoglou again. Tony Ralston, Lawrence, he says that in terms of Tony's application and everything he's did so far, Ange said he simply opened the door, and it was Ralston that had to walk through it. But he gave him the information, and he said he thinks now that Ralston's opened that door and he's shut it right behind him. And again, Ralston was in a position maybe similar to Scott Bain was, that he wasn't sure where his career was going at all at Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, Tony hadn't had a huge run of games anyway. He'd been, and maybe it was getting a run and getting settled. Last season, I think Cal Mack came out a couple of times and said, look, well, we didn't know what we meant to be doing out there. Ange seems to give the players the information of what they're meant to be doing. This is the plan. Go and try and carry the plan out, which Tony seems to be thriving on. And, football's very much a confidence game, isn't it? His confidence has got to be sky high. He's confounded everyone, hasn't he? I think it was only a year's contract we gave him, wasn't it? So we maybe need to be looking at, signing up as well. Tony's, what a season he's having. Absolutely outstanding. But it was great the way Ange, heaps all the praise on the players. He doesn't take any of it for himself, does he? It's all about the players are doing well, and when it goes badly, it's Ange's fault. But when it's going well, it's the players or his staff that are doing well. So it's a really likeable aspect of his character that the way he communicates that.
Yeah, football's a collective game, and he's certainly a man that doesn't shy away from letting other people take the praise. And when the chips are laid down at times, he's quite happy to take responsibility for it as well. So yeah, I think that is really refreshing to see. And Patrick, even just the way he talks, I mean, we'll finish on this, but he talks about the game and people. He said when he goes home to his two boys, they don't listen to him, probably causing running a riot around the house. But when he goes into Lennoxtown, he's got 40 people that believe in him, and he said he's passionate about what he does. And you do really get that off him, that, he's made a big commitment to come to Scotland from Japan, and, he's here to do a good job, and he's, given 100%, probably more, to Celtic at this point in time, which is, all that we can really ask for off him, and hopefully that comes with success.
Yeah, 100%, and he is sort of doing it all on his own. I don't doubt that the background staff have helped him and bought into his ideas and helped convey those messages to the players, but I think you've seen Eddie Howe say in the papers a week or two ago that he didn't come to Celtic because he couldn't get the backroom team he wanted and he didn't want to be doing it himself. But when you actually look at things, Ange is basically, he's came in himself, he's convinced everyone of his ideas, and we've kicked on from a horror show last season. So you've got to admire the work that he's done, and he says all the time that he backs himself, he backs his style, he's not going to change for anyone. If it doesn't work out, he accepts that, and he wouldn't change it for the world. He loves the pressure, and I wouldn't change it either, because it is working at the moment. We're only getting better. He's a lovable guy. We're in a cup final. We're only 4 points off the top, so long may it continue. And
Lawrence, our tagline today is, "I'm here to bring trophies to this football club." He said at the very end of his interview he's humbled by the Celtic support acceptance of him. He said it's a massive motivator to bring success to the football club, and he said that the feeling will be priceless if he does bring success to the football club. He said the club, he's well aware, needs success and it needs silverware, and that's his goal and that's his ambition, and good luck to him in doing that.
Yeah, listen, I think we've got a hard game against Hibs in the final, but we're going to go into that as favourites. You can see why Ange's won trophies wherever he's been. I think apart from a short-lived stay in Greece, but yeah, I've no doubt that he's, by the time whenever that may be in the future, that leaves Celtic, he's going to do so with a haul of trophies and leaving us in a better place than we were when he took over. Because he is building a young team, and he's building a philosophy of football, or re-establishing a philosophy of football, maybe I should say, because it is the Celtic way, isn't it? And he's definitely bringing that back, which is great to see.
And adding the word "mate" into all our vocabularies probably by the time that it departs Celtic. Hopefully that isn't for a long time.
Mate, you also know what a 4X is now?
Yes, I do. Oh, I didn't know that before. Only information about Aussie Lager was Foster's, but yeah, we've been teaching me a wee bit, Lawrence. But I was going to touch on Saturday, Patty, but I think, we've not been on since the AGM last week. I was one of the people that was at the AGM last week. This statement came out. We spoke earlier on, and we can only get 15 minutes. If we spoke earlier on about self-awareness in the Christmas advert, right? So it does mean that there's people and departments at the club that are very self-aware, and, but last week's performance, especially by the chairman, was not very self-aware. And this statement, which I mentioned earlier on, in reflection of the appointment of Bernard Higgins, it's very much so reflected by the Celtic support that Celtic fans do not want this appointment to happen at the club. But do you think, after Michael Nicholson, the rest of the guys on the board say this, that will be it? Or do you think they're going to just do what they did last season and dig their heels in once again?
I think it would be difficult to dig their heels in with fans in the ground, and they can't evict barriers like they did last season. I think I seen a rumour on Twitter that he's going to be appointed on the 5th of January. I really, really hope that's not true. I think they're probably banking on us hitting form, winning our game in the 2nd of January, been in a good mood, and then try to hide bad news. It won't work. It definitely won't work, because it's an insult to the fans, it's an insult to the Green Brigade, it's an insult to football fans, never mind Celtic fans. If this is to go ahead, they know they're doing it against the wishes of well over 90% of the Celtic support. And what else can you say? You were saying there about the AGM, you'd like to think that these guys are aware enough, like the people who make the Christmas advert, what the Celtic fans are thinking. Mm-hmm. It's clear that, either they don't have a clue or they are aware and they're just doing it to annoy us anyway. They're just flying in the face of what we care about. And I think, Ian Bankier allegedly lost the room by 90% to 10%, and he'd probably lose a vote by season ticket holders by the same number. Unfortunately, all his mates are all the big shareholders, so he gets to stay on as Celtic chairman. And, until these guys either get with the programme or are replaced, you're going to see controversies like this all the time. We've seen a big controversy with John Reid. Is it John Reid? 10 years ago.
Yep.
And, these things come around. It was Lord Livingston as well, 5 or 6 years ago. I think this would be the worst of the lot, personally, because this is a man who's targeted football fans in particular, Dawn Raid, 6 a.m, trying to lift people. It shouldn't go ahead, and it's all hell will break loose, and it could derail our season, most importantly, if it does go ahead, which we don't want.
Yeah, it could. When the news came out initially, I think it brought the mood of the Celtic fans down, and there's no need to do that just now. Lawrence on Saturday, the clip that was up on Twitter yesterday, you see that the players are in tune with this, the manager's in tune with this, and the fans are in tune with this. It's about time some of the guys in the board get in tune with this. In this statement signed off us, we ask you to address this issue and to reconsider such an appointment. Ian Banker had that opportunity last week to give assurances, and he would not comment on it and give any assurances. That isn't a good sign from last week. Again, I don't know whether that's just, we won't be told what to do by yous, but again, we are the paying customers. The people in that room last week were the shareholders. They are the ordinary punter. It was made very clear, I think, to two men, particularly Ian Banker and Brian Wilson, but shareholders thought of both men with the reaction in the room towards both. But in terms of the self-awareness, to come away with the line, I won't receive a round of applause in this room, was absolutely baffling to come away with that. And he really does have the opportunity, and Michael Nicholson too, to just completely kill this speculation of this appointment off as soon as possible. I think
we've lost your sound.
Yep, I've lost your sound.
Sorry, that line about won't receive a round of applause in this room just shows the utter contempt from what she treats the fans and the people in the room. He was like, you know what, you don't matter. Whether I get a round of applause here or not. Listen, the board and their decisions, we get they can't go on every one of the fans, and they can't be changing strategies just because the fan says this. And perhaps that was wrong with last season's transfer strategy when they held on to players for too long, because it's come out. There's been some leaks saying, the fans would have went mental if they'd sold them Bailey and Charm, and they're onto the 10. There might have been a bit of discontent if they had, but if they'd reinvested the money in players, nearly as good or equally as good as them, I think we'd have got a better performance last season. But there's some decisions that are just so far wrong that they need to listen to the fans. And I think the Bernard Higgins decision would be one of them. The only reason you can think of them appointing is they want to have a fight with the Green Brigade. Not they want to achieve anything other than have a fight, because this is just such a confrontational decision. It is never going to be anything amicable is going to come from this. I think there's too much water under the bridge with Higgins and the way, whether that was the way he was instructed to police it or not, it was certainly the way he led the policing of the Offensive Behaviour Act at football. And you know what, sometimes you've got to wonder, I know they're different from us and they operate in a different stratosphere in terms of money and that, but geez, it's almost like they're from a different planet if they think this decision is in any way acceptable. And what's more than worrying, the people on the board should have the best interest of Celtic Football Club.
Which they always say they do.
Celtic Football Club, it is the fans. And this is in no way having the best interest of fans at heart. So you've really got to wonder, just what are they doing here? And hopefully the letter makes them rethink, but maybe it'll be, another reply along the bank here thing. It doesn't matter what's in the letter because that isn't what affects me.
Yeah, and, as you say, maybe the letter might change their thinking, Lawrence, but it shouldn't have had to came to this at all, Patrick. Last week was the opportunity to completely, kill it dead in the water. I mean, he didn't do so. And, in terms of Ian Banker last week, he said the board was accountable for its actions in last season, but I think all Celtic fans are still wondering, in what way were they accountable for last season's disaster?
I think they're probably hoping that Peter Lawwell would take his retirement and would all sort of forgive the rest of them. And and in that way as well, they are holding us in contempt because we're not that daft, we're not that stupid. Everyone knows the faces of the 7 board members, everyone knows the names. We know a lot of their backgrounds, people like Brian Wilson and Tom Allison and Dermot Desmond. We know what they're like as people, certainly as businessmen. So we can't just forget stuff like that. Dermot Desmond's a ruthless businessman who's worth over $2 billion. How he cannot run a football club properly, I don't know, because it is his job. He is the biggest shareholder. But yeah, I think if they're going to try and take on the fans, the fans put on a brilliant display, and we're kind of talking about the Green Brigade here, but the Green Brigade put on a terrific display. We all seen the video on Twitter, how much time and money was spent in that Burial display. Which
supporters participated in as a United support as well.
Exactly.
And Patrick, organised by the Green Brigade, but participated in by the support, and so a United front in the support.
And I've not seen one person say that display was rotten. Everyone says the display was brilliant. Celtic refused to tweet about it and mention it because of the pyrotechnics involved. They're more than happy to sell big picture frames in the club shop of the Tifo against Barcelona, which the Green Brigade organised. They're more than happy to profit off of the displays that the Green Brigade make. But I think there needs to be a level of respect shown, which there hasn't been for at least a year and a half. And I'm hoping Michael Nicholson can change that. And I'm hoping this isn't a Michael Nicholson appointment, because I think it's a chance for a fresh start. Even though he's been at the club for 8 years, it's a chance for a different direction with a younger guy in charge. So, yeah.
Patrick, see what you're saying on Desmond running the football club. I think that goes to the heart of it. It should be the CEO. It should be the CEO that runs it. And the board should call the CEO to account. And obviously, we had a new CEO who didn't last very long. We've now got an interim one. And I think a large part of the problem is the interference from above. It is down to a minority shareholder. Yeah, he's got the most amount of shares, but he isn't a majority shareholder.
That's a key word, Florence, as well. It's something that Patrick always says, it's not 50+%, it's well below that.
Mm-hmm. 34.
So I think it's really down to, how it's been run. And we do need a strong CEO. Is Michael going to be that one? Let's hope so. And if he is, listen, him taking this decision out of anyone's hands and saying, you know what, I'm not appointing him. No matter what, I'm not appointing him. Where would Celtic go? Do they sack another CEO? That would just be ridiculous. So I think it's maybe, we're looking at Michael and going, well, you know what? You're in the hot seat. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and it's something that Paul's mentioned before, is this, kind of trinity between the people running the club, the fan base, and the manager and the team. At this point in time, as I said, only 2 of them are intact, the manager and the team and supporters. And the gulf between that and the people running the club is massive just now. We've got an opportunity to press a restart button here with Michael Nicholson. We want him to obviously succeed in Celtic, to do well under his watch, but this appointment would really put him off in the wrong foot with a lot of Celtic fans. And I think, Kevin Graham's going to give you a point in saying that, never fight unneeded big battles when you can win small wins that lead you to your goal, and that's it. The small battles we should be focusing on is getting the right players in and getting the right people into the football department that takes us to win that league title and qualifies us for the Champions League, and keeping our supporters happy and keeping the best interest of Celtic Football Club at heart. At this point in time, the appointment of Bernard Higgins is not putting the Celtic support's best interest at heart. I think that statement is very clear on it's an appointment that shouldn't be made. A lot of fans group, organisations, fan media have made their voices very clear today. And I think, if they don't listen to this, I don't know what they ever would listen to. But to leave us on a positive note, because we're approaching the end of the show today, thanks to everybody that commented on it. The Celtic song, obviously something that's absolutely synonymous with Bertie Auld, is 60 this year. It came up in my Facebook memories the other day that it was from 10 years ago. The first team were singing it for the 50th anniversary, but it's 60 this year. So happy birthday to the Celtic song. It's 60. It's a song I know a lot of people have very happy memories with. Sure, it's a grand old team to play for. It certainly is. It's a grand old team to watch at this point in time, and we're all enjoying watching it. But the final point that I think we've all said here, and Patrick, just to let you add in on this, just what I said there, that there's no need to have these battles off the park that don't need to happen, that completely divide the support. It's time to, be in a united front where other clubs might be feeling a bit of division in amongst them just now, and it's time to go forward, and that starts with just completely killing this appointment in the mud.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the importance of winning the league this season can't be stressed highly enough. You need to be laser focused, because it gives us an extra 3 weeks of pre-season next season, straight into the Champions League, £30 million. We get the title back, and there's that comment about all the fines that we've accumulated in Europe add up to the total of a player. Well, it's only a tenth of a Yeti, and a Yeti's been a total failure. So I think there needs to be a bit of introspection on who's actually wasting the money, and if we can focus on how we best utilise the money for on the park, I think off the field there won't be any issues.
Listen, see on the fines, and it's mostly for pyrotechnics and some banners. Do they really think Higgins is going to get the Green Brigade to stop? That's the objective. So I don't think he's going to get agreement. So how's he going to do it? What kind of policing and stewarding would they have to put in place to get it to stop? It'd have to be fairly repressive, I would say. And would probably be an end to the tifos that they, as you've touched, they make money out of in the slows. And another thing, he's appointed for health and safety. Where else have they looked? I mean, half of Glasgow knows Davy Ross, one of the biggest Celtic supporters out there, heavily involved in health and safety, at concerts, at Hampden. Has anyone spoke to him? What was the recruitment process here? Was it just, here's an ex-policeman that the Green Brigade don't like, let's get him on board? It is mind-boggling that they went through a recruitment process and he was the best candidate.
Yeah, well, again, we'll see what happens. Hopefully this will take a step in that this appointment doesn't happen. But if you've not watched the open goal interview with Ange, it's certainly worth watching the sit-down. If you've not watched the advert, get it watched. Congratulations to Mikael Lustig. It's 10 years since he actually signed for Celtic. That makes me feel really old, because I was only an 11-year-old wee guy when that happened, now approaching the end of uni. To anybody that's watching the show that's heading off to Germany, hope you enjoy the trip. Hopefully we get a result over there. Enjoy yourself. And ACSOM will be back tomorrow with the Bulletin, and then obviously all the other shows in between. But to everybody watching, comment in a Celtic State of Mind, thank you, and hail, hail.